Are we overlooking the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2023? Last season, despite having a rookie quarterback and a record at 3-7 11 weeks into the season, they finished 7-1 in their final 8 games and damn near made the playoffs. And to make things more exciting, their first round quarterback Kenny Pickett showed a lot of maturity during that 7-1 stretch. And in the one loss the Steelers had in that stretch, Kenny Pickett missed practically the entire game after one pass attempt with a concussion. So essentially, when Pickett was at the helm, they rattled off 7 straight victories to wrap up the 2022 season. Now on the downside, Pittsburgh ranked next to last with only 29 offensive touchdowns last season, and they were a bit over-reliant on their top 10 defense. But to correct the problem, they added some reinforcements at some of their most obvious holes on offense. And quietly, they had one of the better off seasons in the NFL, especially if you include the draft. In my opinion, free agency should mostly be used to acquire depth and fill positions of need, and the Steelers kept that in mind in their free agent decisions. While they moved on from Terrell Edmunds, Devin Bush, and Cameron Sutton, they did make cost-effective moves to try and replace those guys. At corner, to make up for the loss of Sutton, who they lost to the Lions, they signed 32-year-old veteran corner Patrick Peterson for 2 years, $14 million. Sure, he's not the same all-pro corner that we saw in Arizona, but the past 2 seasons in Minnesota were very respectable, and he's still playing at a high level. To help with their offensive line issues, which they've had for a few years now, they signed former Eagles guard Isaac Seumalo for 3 years, $24 million. Seumalo missed time with injuries in 2020 and 21, but his 2022 season was great and he played over 1,300 snaps and earned a 72 PFF grade at right guard for the Eagles. At inside linebacker, they added Cole Holcomb, formerly of the Commanders, who missed half the season last year with a foot injury. But in 2021, Holcomb forced 2 fumbles and had 142 tackles, and it looked like he was on his way to another good season before his injury. Another potential underrated move was swapping 7th round picks with the Rams to acquire wide receiver Allen Robinson. The Rams agreed to take on about $10 million of the $15 million left that Robinson was owed in 2023, so essentially they're getting him for very little risk involved. And if it doesn't work out, the Steelers can cut Robinson with minimal damage to their salary cap next year. A-Rob is still 29 years old but has not been himself since 2020, but it's still worth the shot in my opinion. So while they filled some big needs in free agency, they also did a great job capitalizing on value in the draft. Pittsburgh moved up 3 spots in the draft to select Broderick Jones out of Georgia and should be a great pass blocker for Kenny Pickett for what should be a very long time, hopefully. Pairing your potential franchise quarterback with another potential franchise left tackle is always a great idea. They had the first pick of the second round due to the Chase Claypool trade, which is still amazing by them, by the way, and with that pick selected Joey Porter Jr., the corner out of Penn State. Porter Jr. is very good in man coverage and one of my personal favorite corners from this past draft. And his dad, as we know, was once a Pittsburgh Steeler, so it is a great story. Their other second round pick, Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin, will join a defensive line with Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi, and Benton will help that run defense a lot. They even added tight end Darnell Washington, the behemoth out of Georgia, who should immediately be a great run blocker and adds mismatches as a receiver. Overall, the Steelers did a great job adding young talent where needed and taking advantage of players falling in the draft. Even their first 7th round pick, Corey Trice Jr., it was a great value pick and definitely worth taking a shot on. On FanDuel, the over-under win total for Pittsburgh in 2023 is 8.5, and I would definitely take the over. They do play in a tough division, which leaves room for a concern. I can see any of the teams in the AFC North reaching 10 wins next season, and it wouldn't even be surprising, especially if Deshaun Watson gets back to his Houston Texans form. But looking up and down the Steelers' depth chart, there are not many weaknesses, and they have a head coach who has been over 500 for 16 straight seasons now in Mike Tomlin. Tomlin's 16 straight winning seasons is an NFL record for a head coach to begin his career. Do they have their franchise quarterback though? That's the real question. Kenny Pickett was taken 20th overall in 2022's draft, and while he does not have elite physical traits, and all you heard about was his hand size, he does offer some important things you need as a quarterback. He's mobile enough to run if you need him to, he's accurate, he's usually safe with the ball, he can throw outside the hashes, he can read defenses, and the guy had 4 game-winning drives as a rookie, which is awesome. And it seems like he learned from his mistakes. After that complete dumpster fire of a performance in Miami, Pickett really bounced back and looked much better the second half of the year. A lot of young quarterbacks' success depends on the coaching and environment they're in, and for Pickett, he's in a very good position right now with Pittsburgh. That includes the offensive line upgrades, the receivers with Deontay Johnson, breakout without rookie George Pickens, now Allen Robinson, and Pat Freiermuth. Even Najee Harris should be mentioned here as well, considering his receiving skills he's displayed so far. They kept Matt Canada as their offensive coordinator, and Mike Tomlin thinks he's been improving, so decided to give him another chance. But if the Steelers offense does struggle a lot early, it could be a short leash. Onto their defense now, and we still have a very strong pass rush with 2021's Defensive Player of the Year TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, who still looks tremendous despite being near his mid-30s now, and Alex Highsmith coming off a breakout year 3 with 14.5 sacks and a league-leading 5 forced fumbles. Their inside linebackers include Cole Holcomb, who we previously mentioned, and Landon Roberts, who just signed from Miami on a team-friendly deal. Roberts is coming off a career year in 2022 where he set highs in sacks, tackles, and tackles for loss. In the secondary, they retained former Falcon and Cowboys safety DeMonte Casey, who missed the first half of last year, but played well in the second half for the Steelers. Their starting corners in Peterson and Porter should be able to hold it down, assuming that P2 doesn't fall off and Porter can stay away from the penalties. And of course, Minkah Fitzpatrick, their all-pro safety who's been there since 2019 when they acquired him from the Dolphins. Minkah does it all in their secondary. He'll mostly roam around as a free safety and play center field, but can play in the box and play in the slot and still be a very good defender. It's a tough conference, a tough division, I get it, but this team is still exciting and they are definitely moving in the right direction. I think it's possible if things break right, they can make the divisional round, and once you get there, I mean, who knows? In last year's conference championship, the Eagles faced a quarterback who couldn't throw last year, so you never know what's going to happen. So what do you guys think? In a tough AFC, can the Steelers still make a playoff run, or is it still too early for them? I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys next time.